All right, we're back with Carter's Corner. The joyous thing about doing live radio, things happen, and there's not much you can do about it. So we just had a total net drop out then, so we lost the stream, but we're back again. So just to rehash, we do have Robert Epstein. I nearly said Epstein. I was like, no, he's not around anymore. So we've got Robert Epstein live all the way on Skype from Bali, Indonesia. And we've got Joel Jamal live from New South Wales, Australia, obviously. So before we had a very interesting technical issue, Robert was telling us about what soul men do in Bali. So let's start again, because I'm not sure how much actually made it through to air.
Okay, I founded Yayasan Soulmen Indonesia, which is a fully registered charity in Bali 10 years ago. Soulmen has, for almost a decade now, been very active throughout Bali, searching and finding forgotten people, mainly in the poorest and remote areas, who are not helped by the government. People who are living with disabilities, mental health disorders, acute or chronic illnesses, and their families. Soulmen's focus is to actively search for people who fall through the cracks, to bring them holistic, life-saving or life-changing assistance. Over the last 10 years, we've grown from helping one small child to currently helping over 2,400 people, with numbers growing particularly since the pandemic. Soulmen's 10-bedroom centre in Kuta provides pre- and post-operative care and often serves up to 90 meals per day for our patients. Some food is grown in our vegetable gardens. Soulmen's focus is on food distribution, targeted medical assistance, a vigorous mental health program, and help providing sustainable tropical gardens, including aquaponics, in order to lift people out of the charity cycle. We are still distributing food parcels daily to malnourished children and adults all around the island. To give you an idea of some of our monthly costs, high nutrition milk is around $5,000 a month. Medicines for our mental health patients, either locked up in cages or shackled by chains, in some cases for over 20 years, is over $7,000. The hospitality industry has traditionally provided the vast majority of our funding, whilst corporate sponsorship has been a lifeline, paid in monthly installments for Soulmen's programs. Soulmen have multiple popular partnerships with hotels and villa management companies, whereby guests are charged an optional $1 per night or $1 per stay. This is at the no cost to the hotel, and for the guest it's less than the cost of a coffee. It also provides great PR for the hotels. As an example, Hard Rock's 400 plus rooms pre-pandemic, when 85% average occupancy, yielded on average around $2,500 a month for our programs. Bali Dynasty Resort, or rather their guests, provided a car from this initiative to collect and return kids home daily from all around the island for therapy, and also helped to fund our headquarters with the 10 bedrooms in Kuta. Soulmen's merchandise, primarily sales of our Soul Teddy, you see this one? A cute little teddy bear, together with Mini Teddy, a smaller keychain version, yielded $35,000 a year, actually 75% of our merchandise sales from hotels and various other retail outlets. Funding from 90% of our monthly donors stopped immediately when the pandemic struck.
Okay.
Similarly, donations from individuals and corporate sponsorships have all but dried up. Donation boxes, all boxes in more than 100 locations around Bali, are now pitifully redundant. Soulmen's food drive boxes, now in most of the leading supermarkets in Bali, have considerably reduced our monthly costs for food parcels. In addition, there have been various methods to raise funds in the past, including regular merchandise fundraising drives and fundraising events, all previously contributing.
Yep.
More recently, we launched a bold 5-year strategic plan and our prospectus targeting wealthy private donors and corporations with CSR programs and government grants. So please contact me for a coffee.
Hey, sorry to cut you off there, Robert. So what we're doing is we need to talk more about what is actually happening on the streets of Solomon and all that. So the biggest problem we have with this business is a community radio station. We're really restricted on things like that. So it's borderline getting into a sales pitch. So what I'd really love to talk about here, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. I was a little bit worried that you'd get yourself into trouble with that one. So, so when you're actually going around and helping out these people, how much of an impact has that actually had on the actual individual people? So from the normal people having everyday jobs, what's now happening instead?
Well, hundreds of thousands of people are out of work. Most of the work was within the hospitality industry. You know, many of you on this call know that the community of Bali is devastated from the lockdowns and travel restrictions, which have reduced tourism on the islands to nothing, apart from those, I would say, lucky people stuck here for all the reasons we know.
Okay.
Recent articles estimate that over 80% unemployment. We've been meeting villagers in some remote parts who haven't eaten for days. As such, I know it's a sales call, you've called it a sales call. I'm appealing to all those on this call who are secure and have a philanthropic or compassionate streak to contact me to consider sponsoring some of our Solomon's programs so we can get out there.
Okay, excellent. So one of the things that we will definitely do on our website and all our links, we'll put all your links in there as well so people can actually see what you're doing. If they want to get out there and help you out, they'll be able to do that for you as well. So one of the things our media, especially over here, is they're talking about people dying in hospitals and things like that. So I do need to go to a quick message because we are a little bit over because I had to play an extra song. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to a quick message from our sponsors, and when we come back, it will be in about 30 seconds or so. We'll continue this conversation, and what I'd love to talk to you about is the actual people themselves. How many people are actually seen to have COVID? Is there actually people dying in the streets? Because the picture that's been painted over in Australia, especially from places like Channel 9, Channel 10 News, Channel 7, is that Bali has been absolutely smashed on a health side of things because of COVID. So I want to see, is that really, really happening? So we do have Robert Epstein from Solomon, Bali, and we've also got Joel Jamal from New South Wales in Australia. So we'll be right back after this. All right, this is Carter's Corner with Travis Carter. We are doing something a little bit new here today. We do have two guests, one international all the way from Bali, Indonesia. So that's Robert Epstein. You'll have to correct me on this if I'm wrong. You are the founder of Solomon Indonesia?
Yeah, it's called Yayasan Solomon Indonesia. Yayasan is a word for foundation.
Yep, fantastic. And in New South Wales, just chilling out, having a listen, having a bit of a chat, we've got Joel Jamal, who has a YouTube channel called The Ark. There's a little logo there on the left-hand side there for him. Fantastic channel for both of them, so we'll be talking more to Joel later. Now, Robert, one of the things we were talking before we went to a message from our sponsors is on the Australian media side of things, if you didn't know anyone in Bali, you'd think it'd be an absolute war zone. There'd be dead bodies in the street. The hospitals are absolutely out their capacity. The government would have no idea what they're doing. It's just like an absolute mess. Tell us the truth. Is there dead people in the street? Are the hospitals like absolute chockers? Is the government struggling, or is the government actually doing a really good job over there?
Well, you know, my team's out there every single day of the week and weekends. And although there are increasing numbers of people already or on the verge of homelessness and starvation and medical ruin, they're not dying in the streets. It's absolute nonsense. We're out of hospitals all over the island, and we haven't seen hospitals full of COVID cases. I myself was in hospital, actually, recently, and I was the only person on the ward, on the floor, in fact. So although the Australian press may be putting stuff like that out, It's absolutely not true. In fact, every day I wake up in the morning and thinking how blessed I am to be in Bali. I come from England, and they're far worse off in England, particularly London, as far as we live an outdoor life, and the restaurants are open, the clubs are open, everything's fairly open. And people are walking around. Not everybody, most people are wearing masks. There's an area in Bali you've probably heard of, Canggu, where there's a lot of bravado and Russians and other people who are going around without masks, being in a very cavalier fashion. But most sensible people, and definitely the Indonesians, are mainly wearing masks.
Okay, sorry to cut you off there. We have done a few segments here about the mask wearing. In Australia, it got made mandatory for about 5 days in WA. Pre-COVID, I know my wife's Vietnamese and everyone wears a mask outside over there. Is Bali the same? Was masks a part of everyday life pre-COVID, or is this a new thing that's been happening over in Bali?
Pre-COVID, absolutely not, no. Only since March, when the pandemic struck, we've been wearing masks. Well, most sensible people have been wearing masks. As I say, there are certain clubs quite a number of clubs actually in Canggu, where people are not socially distancing, and people are not wearing masks. But the vast majority of sensible people in most places are wearing masks. And as I said, the Indonesians primarily are showing a great example.
Okay, fantastic. So just to summarise, A, there's no people dying in the street. B, the hospitals are not at capacity.
No.
And now, one of the big things about over in Australia, a lot of people are talking about how well, the Mark McGowan WA government has done. If you had to summarise the Bali government, would you say they've done a really, really good job, or do you think they've been a little bit lacklustre?
I would say that the Bali government, bless them, are doing the very best that they can. It's damn difficult, and they're doing the best that they possibly can. I don't know exactly what they're doing, because nobody ever knows what a government is doing exactly. But as far as we can see, they're doing a reasonably good job.
Fantastic. So it's always good to see a government supporting their people rather than trying to hinder them. Some of the other stuff that you were talking about, how you do have this relationship with a lot of the businesses there. What have you noticed the biggest thing about the businesses, especially the smaller, like individual businesses, like we call them small businesses or medium-sized businesses? How have they been really affected, considering how much the tourism side of things has gone down?
Well, let me tell you. Last week, my head of outreach and co-founder, Sarah Chapman, who you may have heard of, and I went down Jalan Legian, which is an awfully long street, and it's usually jam-packed. We were the only car driving for at least 10 minutes, the full length of Jalan Legian. No shops open, everything boarded up, nobody else. We didn't see anybody else. It's really like a ghost town, mainly in Kuta, actually. It was so sad. It was so very sad. People have lost their livelihoods, as I say, mostly because of the collapse of the hospitality industry. But there are some really inspirational characters appearing. One of them was supposed to be on tonight, who lost his job as a receptionist in a hotel. And he's got 3 kids, and he started selling vegetables and fruit. And then when that got going, he started baking. And now he's got a thriving business. He's earning a lot more money than he did as a receptionist in a hotel. And there are a number of such characters going around. But Balinese are very resourceful. It's wonderful to see cases like that. I hope we can get it on the show.
That's absolutely great. We did try, but technology, this is the first time we'll try this, so it's a little bit unknown. So maybe next time, I would love to talk to this gentleman. So there's a few...
There are a number of people like that.
Yeah, so I love seeing very resourceful people. So with the people that do want to start these sort of businesses and they need a bit of help, especially one thing I love about Australia is how generous we are over here. How would, if, say I wanted to send you some money over in Bali, how would we do that from Australia? How do we get in contact with you guys?
www.solman.org/donate. www.solman.org/donate. Look at our website and just press how to donate. You can send money direct bank transfer or via PayPal or via credit card or debit card, or just get in touch with yourself and then and
Fantastic. Great. So what we'll do, we'll make sure...
Just get my number from Travers.
We'll make sure that all the details are actually up on this stream, so it will take us a little bit of time after the show. We'll get that definitely going there. So the one thing we want to do, we will need to go to a few more messages shortly. Have you seen a roadmap out of COVID Bali, or is this? Does it look like all the restrictions and everything is going to be continuing in the near future?
Well, I understand that Singapore Airlines are going to be up and running in May, and there's rumours that the airport will be open in June or July. But you never really know. These are just rumours. Actually, just one thing I needed to tell you, that there were 5 charities got together under the umbrella banner of CORE, and we're doing a walk from the west coast to the east coast, from Tabanan to Chandivasa, to raise awareness and funds for those people out in the villages that I was talking about. That's from April the 2nd to the 11th.
Okay, if you can send us the details for that as well, we'll make sure it comes up on our website as well.
Already done.
Fantastic. Great. So one of the things that I'd really, really want to emphasise as well, one of the things, I don't know if it made it to your news over there, but at the end of 2019, I think it was, there was a massive bushfire in Australia. And there was all these concerts done to raise money and all that sort of stuff. And I think it was the Red Cross from memory. They raised something like $130 million. Like, it was a huge effort, like great effort. But what happened is they kept something like $30 million for administration costs and future events. So one of the things, talking to you off air, you were telling us about how Solman actually operates. So let's say a very generous person came along and donated you $1 million. What happens? What's the breakdown for that $1 million? Where does that $1 million go?
Well, just first of all, I have to tell you that neither myself nor Sarah Chapman in the last 10 years have taken salaries from the charity. In fact, we've been partly funding the charity when it was needed. So just around about 22% goes in administration. We need to pay our staff. We don't operate with volunteers because volunteers come and go. So we have a very compassionate and dedicated team of paid Indonesians, and we need to get our cars filled up with petrol to be around the island every single day, and so I'm given to understand that 22% is actually quite a low figure.
So that's great. So a lot of charities, they will pay their CEOs and the bosses and the corporates a huge amount of money. So like you saw with the Red Cross. So after expenses, is it a fair comment to say that 100% of money donated goes to the people that really need it?
Absolutely. I don't know of another charity where the founder and the co-founder don't take any salaries. I've never heard of it. We're absolutely. My wife's actually very upset with me because we had to downsize. Honestly, we had to downsize because I've been working for over 10 years without any income, and it's just because of the way I am and the way Sarah Chapman is that we've done it. We're I guess you could say we're out and out humanitarians and haven't looked after ourselves. But that's the way it is, and I don't regret anything.
So hopefully your wife doesn't get too angry at you, but Robert, you've been absolutely phenomenal on the show. I know so many friends over here, they're just like biting out the bit. They just want to get back over to Bali. They used to go there every set of school holidays, every holidays they get. Now, Joel, is Bali, has it got the same sort of attraction to you guys over on the East Coast there?
Yeah, a ton of people go to Bali. It's a beautiful place, and there's a lot of things you could do there.
Yeah. So I have to say, from the WA perspective, we want to get over there. We can't wait for the borders to be open again. Hopefully our government will finally get off their backside and open the borders so we can go travelling again. So it's just a really, really tough thing. We love helping our neighbours. We love helping them out. And Robert, you've been absolutely phenomenal. So thank you for coming onto the show and putting up with all our technical difficulties. So what we'll do, we do need to go to a quick message from our sponsors again, and we'll chuck another song as well. Before we go, can I just get that web address again off you, please?
www.soulmen.org/donate.
Great. So what?
www.soulmen.org/donate.
So we'll make sure that is on our Facebook, that's on our YouTube channels, on all the platforms that we have available. So we'll get it out there. Would love to catch up with you again in the future, see how you're going after all the borders are opened up again, and we'll definitely have a chat again. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go jump over into a few messages from our sponsors, and we'll grab a song. And after that, we've got some things we want to discuss with Joel on the other side of these messages. So again, Robert, thank you very much for coming on the show with us today. All right, Carter's Corner, back here again. Travis Carter, obviously, and we got a bit of a guest. Wow, that's really, really high. We got a bit of a guest sitting across from me here. A very masculine man in Charles Smith, Honourable Charles Smith.
Good evening, Travis.
My
Good evening,
computer
everyone.
is making beep beep noises at me. I'm not sure why. I don't know. Anyway, all good. Okay, Charlie, say good morning to everyone.
Good evening, everyone.
Oh, yes, evening, isn't it?
That's right.
So, we also have, in the full screen now, Joel Jamal, creator of The Ark, live from New South Wales, Australia. Don't let all the Trump memorabilia fool you. So, he is the YouTube superstar of The Ark. My understanding, you've already been banned by YouTube once?
Yeah, I had a 10,000 subscriber page, got banned.
Why? What happened?
Well, there were multiple things. One was the capital. YouTube has been ramping up a ton of different censorship. One of the things it got me on was the Capitol riots. I tried covering it, and it deemed it not safe. Another one was medical misinformation. You can't even mention the V word, which I won't say on here for your sake. And also the other one was you can't dispute the US election results.
So, apparently we're not allowed to say vegan on the radio now.
No, not vegan.
No, it's
Action in.
we won't say it just in case we get you accidentally banned. So it's the thing that politicians in Australia have a habit of pretending that they get.
Yeah, I call it the vacation. So
yeah,
that'll help people.
I wonder if the other word they use for it, a knock something or other.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it just in case I accidentally get you banned. I wonder if YouTube doesn't like that one as well.
Who knows?
Inoculates.
Who knows?
Inoculation.
Immunisation.
I think it's fine.
We'll see. Well, we'll find out in about a week. So, okay. So there's a reason we got Joel in, and
Yes.
a lot of it was around some of the let's be honest here. It's a shit app. It's just stupid. It's the dating app, the app that you've got to bump before you bump hips, or whatever they want to call it. How they're promoting it.
Consent app. What was it? The New South Wales police commissioner or something like that?
Yeah.
Came out with it.
So
Does such an app actually exist, or is it just an idea?
Joel, is it a real app yet?
I think it exists.
Okay.
I don't know if it's been released, but it definitely exists, and it's going to complicate things, I think.
Well, it's so romantic. I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it? Huh?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anyone that's got any experience in the area knows that. Oh, you've got to check in. Like it's like a COVID check-in QR code. It's so unsexy. Going into a restaurant, you just want to get in there and look at the menu, see what's on offer. But no, they want to go through a full process. And anyone that's got any, we're not against no consent. Obviously, no one here is advocating for rape. Obviously,
Yeah.
But there's an art to this, and the art can be jeopardized by something as.
Well, why don't we just,
It's just not smooth.
Why don't we just bring contracts around? You know, like to have a contract in our top pocket.
No,
I like you. Sign this contract.
Let's
Job
take
done.
it. Let's take it a step further. Let's take it a step further. So you remember in the late '90s how everyone started getting the tattoos across their back or their lower back, and they were called I think they called them tramp stamps.
Yeah.
So are people going to start getting their QR codes, like one tattooed on their chest for the guys and the girls, like on the back or something like that?
It's a possible future, isn't it? It's a possible future. Dystopia awaits, Travis.
It's terrible, isn't it? Oh, it's terrible. Okay, the other things that have been coming up, obviously the Christian Porter has been getting absolutely destroyed in the media. Whether he did it or not, it seems that around elections, people always want to bring up some sort of rape allegations or sexual misdemeanor. And now I've heard there's a Liberal, I can't remember if it was member of Parliament or a staffer, apparently did the deed in Parliament House, then left a lady naked and on loan and whatnot. So I'd love to talk about how dangerous is it to be a male politician at the moment?
Well, from my experience with members of Parliament here in Western Australia and what they say or tell me about stories in Canberra, it's well known to be a house of sleaze, right? It's well known in political circles that Canberra is just a house of sleaze. And now it appears these stories are now leaking out into the mainstream media, and probably not before time. I mean, the Morrison government seems to be now drowning in sleaze. Can it make its way back? I don't know. What do you think, Joel?
I am very concerned about where they're going. It's disconcerting because it shows the political animal we're sort of dealing with here. The Canberra bubble, which I just got back from today, I went for about 24 hours because that's all I could tolerate, It's disgusting. It's actually disgusting. Whether that's the wastage that they go through, whether it's the bureaucracy, whether it's the red tape, whether it's the inefficiencies, and then you load this on top. Are you kidding me? The Australian people, they don't want to hear about this stuff. They want to hear about veteran suicides, which has been something that Craig Kelly and Heston have been really pushing, Heston and Hewitt as well. And, they want to know how you're going to get us out of COVID. They want to know what you're going to do about very topical things, like what's going on with China right now. This is not a priority right now. Now, if an allegation is brought forward, let the police deal with it. We need more information. But this is ridiculous. It's become a circus, and it doesn't help the victim, and two, it doesn't help the rule of law at all. And I don't know why anyone would get into politics right now. I really don't.
Well, Charlie, someone who's just
good question. I'm just getting out of politics, but it's just we need to acknowledge that most media in Australia is left-leaning, right? We suffer with left-leaning media, and they want to kick out the Morrison government. That's obvious for anyone to see, isn't it? And any scandal that comes down, they're going to jump on it big time. And this is what we're seeing now. Rather than discuss those serious issues that Joel has raised, we're talking about all this horrible sleaze. And if the allegations are true, it's disgusting. There are serious economic and political issues that will need to be dealt with. We're struggling with coming out of COVID. Job Seeker is coming off. There's corporations who've gorged themselves on Profit Keeper, and there's all these big issues that need to be discussed, really. So it's just a big scandal that's easily taken advantage of by left-leaning media.
All right. So for someone who's just gone through the circus of Parliament, so for WA. What's one of the easiest traps that a new, fresh politician coming into the game can fall into, especially around these sort of allegations? Do you get to the point where you refuse to do meetings with people unless you got other people with you as a backup?
Well, in practical terms, I think it's always wise to have a third party with you for any meeting, particularly if it's meeting a woman and you don't know her for the first time. You should have some people with, but both of you should have people with you, so to really safeguard against spurious allegations. I mean, in my experience, that's never happened. The West Australian Parliament seems to be quite staid and, frankly, quite boring. So none of that has ever, to my knowledge, happened. There was some scandal with a Labor Party staffer, some months ago at some party. He was drunk and he was alleged to have assaulted a female staffer. That all went to court and so on and so on. But that's the only thing that really springs to mind in terms of this sort of sleaze that the media wants to jump on.
Well, didn't we have Troy Boswell, the chair sniffer?
Troy Boswell, that was some years ago now.
Yeah. So we've been pretty stable for a while. Especially, it seems that, especially in the say 12 months, 18 months or so, everything seems to be directly aimed towards Liberal Party. Do you think this is a concerted effort from all the media places? And I'm going to throw this one over to Joel. Do you think this is a concerted effort from the mainstream media to try and discredit the Liberal Party as much as possible, leading into, the WA election, the federal election? We've just had the Queensland, and I think the Victorian election is coming up pretty soon as well.
Oh, no, absolutely. There's no... I think it's the South Australian election you're thinking of. No, absolutely. That's exactly what's going on. We've seen this happen around the world, whether it was Brexit, whether it was what happened in the USA with Trump. The situation is that when dealt a significant loss, like they saw in 2019, let's not forget Sportsbet was paying out, Labor to win before the election actually happened, and then there was a massive upset. 3/4 of Queenslanders didn't vote for Labor. There was a number of seats that ScoMo won. It was called the unwinnable election. Yet they were dealt a massive upset, and everyone wanted to be ScoMo's friend after that. He was on a real political high at that point. Now, in order to bring him off that high perch of his, you've got to slowly chip away at these things, little bit by little bit by little bit. And the media plays probably one of the most important roles in all of this, and it is 100% obviously ramps up during times of the election. I mean, let's take another case study. Look at America. Look at Black Lives Matter, the search results. Anyone can do this. Go look at how often Black Lives Matter as a search result comes up. It comes up every time there's an election year. So you go 2016, it spikes, and then it drops off. It goes, where does it go? Well, their funding basically drops off, and then you go to 2020 and it spikes again. And it's like, okay, we'll see it again in 2024. You watch.
Interesting. I wonder if we can trace that in WA, because prior to the federal election, there was a whole heap of Black Lives Matter protests as well. The WA state election, there was a whole heap of protests.
Well, what we experienced here is a brutal example of the power of the media. For the last 2.5 years, the local newspaper here, the West Australian, has pushed forward a pro-Labor story and an anti-Liberal story for the 2.5 years, and we've seen the brutal result in the complete destruction of the Liberal Party in Western Australia and the complete takeover of both houses of Parliament here. That's the power of the media. And here in WA, they've got no competition. They've just smashed the population with non-stop propaganda, and now we've got this one-party state.
Now, one thing I would love to really look into with this one, obviously I'm not in Parliament, so I can't do it. I'd love to see, how much money was actually spent by Labor for the COVID announcements and all that sort of stuff. How much money has Channel 7, so Channel 7, West Media, pretty much they're the same company. How much money did they actually get during the election? And how much money have they received from changes in policies? Because I don't know if Joel's aware of this one or not. There's an old power station in WA that was reported to be worth about $106 million for the property. The government, Labor government, spent about $66 million getting it decontaminated. Then they sold it to
Stokes.
Terry Stokes.
Kerry Stokes.
Kerry Stokes for the very, very expensive price of $1.
Well, the government didn't pay for it. The West Australian taxpayers paid for the clean-up. And then it was basically gifted away to their supporters, shall we say, and donors. So this kind of scandal, it really should bring down governments, but with the friendly media, it's just swept under the carpet. And there's no one in WA to hold the government to account. There's no one.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, look. Sorry, Joel, let me just add this. Let's look at what's happening live right now, a live example of this. And I keep pointing to America because it's where we're heading. We're heading to this terrible tribalism. What do we see what's going on the southern border? A situation where the media all of a sudden discovers that there's these cages down there that now no longer exist. They're internment camps. They're temporary storage facilities. They're not cages. They're not kids in cages. That's what they make absolutely clear. Yet when it was Donald Trump, they lambasted him over the coals for this, even though he closed down many of these facilities. And now we're in a situation where, it's rules for thee but not for me. When your side's in, you turn a blind eye, and when it's not in, and that's the same. And the Liberal Party in Australia, they're not innocent on this stuff. When they're in power, the national debt's not a big deal. But when they're out of power, they're like, oh, the national debt, what are you doing? You're spending too much, and then they end up being the biggest spenders when they get in as well.
Wow. So either way, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I think it's time for people to start voting for the small parties instead.
Well, what we need is a big anti-establishment political push, which people can understand and vote for. That's what we need desperately in Australia. Desperately.
We definitely do. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly jump to a quick message, but before we do that, talking about how terrible the media's been lately, page 13, I'm pretty sure this is the West Australian, wanews.com.au, yes it is. There's a opinion piece by... I'm going to butcher this name, as I always do. Ragni Hirini, I think that's how you pronounce it, with a headline, Masculine Truths at Stake, and it's spelled like, mate steak. So there's a few interesting quotes and actions that she's done for this one. So I'd love to jump over and have a look at these so-called opinion pieces that are coming up in the West Australians, and to give you an idea of why... especially in society, it's deteriorating so badly over the last couple of years. So we are going to go to a quick message. So obviously we're on 89.7 FM live from Perth. You can actually send in text messages if you do want to have a talk to some of the guests on the show tonight. So we do have Joel Jamal all the way from New South Wales, Australia. So he's on the big screen. We've got Honourable Charles Smith. I'm going to keep calling you Honourable even when you're out, because as far as I'm concerned, you've been awesome. Honourable Charles Smith from the West Australian Party. He's a local in Perth here. So we will be back shortly to have a chat about this opinion piece, because we got the West Australian, so you didn't have to. So let's go have a look at it. So 89.7, we'll be back shortly. All right, we're back, 89.7 FM. I don't know why the timer was out by about 15 seconds. I'm thinking, hang on, no, that's zero. We should be on air. But no, all good, all good. So we have Joel Jamal live from the Skype, sitting there in his studio, New South Wales, Australia. We've got the Honourable Charles Smith sitting across from me. Oh yeah, by the way, I forgot to tell everyone, we are streaming to close to about 80,000 people at the moment, plus the people who are listening on live through the radio waves. So just a few people, so don't feel pressured or anything. So, all right, so before the messages, we were talking about this... and I'm going to hold it up for the cameras. I don't know if the camera can see that. That's the one, page 13. So it starts with, there is a lot to debate at the moment about toxic masculinity. Prime example just there. No. What is it, what the impact on society is, and what is fueling men to behave in this way. So that's the opening statement.
Behaving in what way?
A toxic masculine person, and how dare you open the door for a lady. Sorry, I just think
Travis, I am sick and tired of this nonsense attacking males in our society. This so-called toxic masculinity is utter garbage. It's just yet another cultural Marxist attack on the traditional family unit. It's just another arrow in their armour to fire at traditional family society, trying to break it apart, trying to go with the theory that men are bad, all men are bad. It's just ridiculous. And now this woman, who says she's a journalist, is wanting to attack men for eating meat.
Yeah.
I mean, what is going to happen next?
Joel, do you get much of this so-called toxic masculinity over in New South Wales, or is it just more of a WA thing?
No, it's terrible. No, not at all. It's not just the WA thing. There's nothing special about WA. It's all of these major cities. It's absolutely terrible, because this concentration of education from the universities in urban centres, it's pumping out this ideology, whether it be people that are trained to be teachers, whether it be people who are trained to be diversity officers. It's all coming out, and it's absolutely disgusting. And we'll talk about it a bit later, but in the universities, they're really pushing it as well with these consent courses, which we'll talk about later. But it's absolutely disgusting, and we need strong men. We need strong men for a strong society. That's just a fact. We also need strong women. But we've also got to recognise the reality that men and women are not the same. They're not on par with everything. And that's something that can get a lot of people cancelled. But I'm less cancelable because I've got these eyebrows.
Are they real? Yeah.
For the listening viewers, my eyebrows are about, how long would you say? 5 centimetres, 1 centimetre thickness.
No, come on. It's about an inch thick and about 7 inches long.
Yeah, you guys need to tune into the Facebook live stream if you want live vision.
So if you do want to see the amazing eyebrows, and it's funny, as he laughs and smiles, they move in different angles, and it's like two worms fighting. So, no, they're awesome. I didn't want to say anything.
Actually, I'm quite flattered today because they've got one of my old pictures on the newspaper here, so that's really good of the West to put me on there.
You wish, jellyfish.
So
he's pointing out a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger flexing his biceps. So I think this was.
I don't understand what the problem is. The problem here, according to this woman, is being male and wanting to eat meat. That's the problem, and that's bad. Apparently, I've got no idea why.
Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse.
I would encourage all men who are listening to ignore this utter garbage. Eat 1 steak a day. Smash the eggs down. Get the milk down. Start developing physique. Get down the gym.
So she continues to go and say, in January, I decided I would attempt veganary challenge. So I'm guessing that's February. You don't eat meat at all. Actually, no, vegan. That's things like you can't have avocados either. Can't have milk. Can't have cheese. Can't have eggs. Can't have seafood. So any animal products or anything that's grown using animal products like blood and bone for the fertilizer, you can't eat it. That's why avocados are out. Eating just vegan food for the month. In 2020, more than 400,000 people took the pledge to try veganary, which counts celebrities Jacqueline Phoenix and Paul McCartney as its top ambassadors. So I decided, why not? My best friend is vegan and he's always going on about how great it is. I knew it would be hard to go vegan without the support of my partner, and I knew bacon was my weakness. I told my partner that he'd need to either join me or move out for the month. Harsh, but I knew I would give in to temptations. Like, I have to ask here, is he... I'm trying to think what I can get away with on the radio here, but if someone turned around and said, right, let's say a man said to a woman, right, you're not allowed to go to that nightclub. What would be the first thing that happens? There'd be national outrage.
Hell no.
Don't go there, girlfriend. Sort of thing.
Yeah. Slay queen. You don't need no man.
Like,
find another sort of thing.
Is this like? I'll be honest. I got a spare room. So if the partner of this person is needing for a house to stay for however long, I do have a spare room. I'm happy to put it up for him. But if a man told a woman she's not allowed to do something, there'd be a national outcry. Especially, can you imagine, let's say Jeff Parry went to his wife and said, no, you're not allowed to do this.
Who's that, mate?
Jeff Parry, Channel 7, chief editor, police person.
Don't know.
Not police. Anyway, so me and him, we have a love-hate relationship. We love to hate each other. So can you imagine if he told a female colleague or his partner or someone else, right, you're not allowed to eat this sort of food anymore because you're going to get fat or muscly or whatever. There'd be national outrage over this. So what gives this I was going to say lady, but woman, this person, this Ragni, the right to turn around and dictate to another person what you can and can't eat?
I have no idea. You have to ask her what the status of her relationship is like.
I think maybe we should ask for the partner to come on onto the radio show, tell us how it went.
Yeah, why not?
Did he move out for the month? Is he still with her? I'd really love to know. So if you are listening, I don't know if they're married. I'm looking at the photo, but I can't see like the fingers, so I'm not sure if they're married. But if you are listening, reach out to us, info@carterscorner.com.au, or send it to actually the Chief of Staff email address, the COS. No, not that one. I've been waived. No, don't use that one. So yeah, so send us a message if you want to come on air. Send it to mine. So now it gets better. Apparently, his response: "I can't go without meat. I'm a man. I need to eat meat." I thought, what a stupid comment. Like, I don't think that is a stupid comment. I think that's a fair comment. I love meat. So, Joel, thoughts? Do you love meat?
Yeah, of course I do. I've been eating it my whole life. Hang on. I'm a wog, guys. Has anyone seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding? There's no such thing as not eating meat, okay? It's
Joel,
he's a vegan, don't give...
Joel, I'm a middle-aged white guy in WA radio. I can't say that, so please, you're an intelligent man.
All right, let me put it to you this way: if I brought a girl home, and I told my mum, if you're going to prepare a meal, please make sure that it doesn't have meat in it. My mum would be like, okay, that's fine. I make you lamb. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. We have raw meat. It's not a thing. What they're asking, the Middle Eastern cuisine, it's not going to work out. We have 5 different meats per dinner. That's, when you walk out the door, especially in the western suburbs of Sydney, just an insight for you Western Australian people, when you walk out the door, you might sniff and smell some smoke and think, it's bushfire season, they're doing some backburning. That's not backburning. That's barbecue. That's Arabs cooking up massive spit roasts. We love our meat. That's just how it is.
And that's not a gender thing either. That's just you guys love your meat.
Yeah.
I don't know what purpose this article serves. It's just yet another West Australian newspaper masquerading as a newspaper, just full of these left-wing opinion pieces by so-called journalists. It's just garbage. It's the state of journalism today is just atrocious.
Well, it goes on. So this idea of, I'm a man, I need to eat meat, was crazy to me and a little bit sexist. Sorry, babe. And I'm thinking, how's that sexist? It's not trying to discriminate against anyone or anything like that. It's just saying, look, I'm a guy, I like my meat. It's as simple as that. I really struggle with this lady's line of thought. Have either of you guys actually had some turn around and go, oh no, you can't eat that?
No.
Joel, I heard a sigh there.
I won't be told what to do.
But whenever someone's told me not to eat too much meat, it's been from a good place. For example, don't have too much salami and hams because it's not good for your arteries, and it's true. It can clog up your arteries if you have too much, and I don't think you can actually fix the problem of when it basically clogs and fills up your arteries.
Well, you can get medication for that.
But there's a valid reason there. But to just not eat meat, it's like, hang on a sec. What are you, Bill Gates? Are you trying to sell me some vegetable sort of alternative meat? I don't think so.
Yeah.
And when Charlie, you're sort of right about this. It does sort of tie into the whole cultural Marxism movement, because what are you thinking of when she's talking about her partner? You're thinking about a white cisgender male, straight gender, for those of you who don't know what cisgender means, white male who likes to eat meat. They're trying to demonize that person.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it, eating that meat. And it's a very toxic narrative they've got going.
Well, unfortunately, the great irony about this article is this woman is demonstrating what we're now seeing from these neo-feminists, right? These extremists. And this is this toxic femininity coming through, pushing the narrative that, men are bad. Constantly, men are bad. And that's really the toxic thing which is coming through in this article here.
So let's continue reading, because this is seriously a 3/4 page article. This isn't just a little tiny thing, and it's page 13. So this I'd love to know, did she actually pay to have this put in the newspaper as well? Or did someone go, hey, you know what, you're a great writer, I love the article, let's put it on page 13. The idea of real men eat meat comes from the days of cavemen and have been repeated throughout time, from the Vikings to the Romans, where feasts including a spit roast or the head honcho chewing on a leg of ham.
It's extraordinary journalism. Extraordinary.
I always remember watching a documentary about Scandinavians, how, like, this is back castles and swords and bow and arrows and all that sort of stuff, and the average feed. It wasn't whether you were a toxic masculine person or something like that, because you got to remember back then you weren't allowed to hunt deer or anything like that, because that was the king's land. You can't kill the king's deer. So a vast majority of meals back in those days didn't have meat. They didn't have meat because they didn't have enough money. It was a social economical thing. It's not a men eat meat and women eat veggies sort of things. It was just purely you didn't have money. So when I read this, I thought, did you even do any research about this?
I doubt it.
Like, or is it just, my university lecturer told me this, so it must be true. Sorry about my really bad accents there.
It's just yet another opinion piece masquerading as journalism. They're trying to change people's minds. That's what they're doing. It's non-stop Marxist propaganda from this absolute gutter paper we're forced to look at in Western Australia.
Yep. All right, it keeps going. Either way, when you look back at our history and the stereotypical images used to portray men on our screens, men and meat are tied together.
What's the problem?
Patriarchy.
I think you nailed it right there, Joel. The patriarchy. So,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think how many movies are out there that where a guy's gone, no, you're not allowed to eat meat, honey. You've got to eat veggies because you got to stay skinny while I eat all the meat because I got to be a big fatty. Like, I've never seen a movie along those lines before.
Do you know what, Travis? A man should be masculine, right? He should have a great physique. He should go and work out. He should eat well. He should dress well. Spend some money on himself. That's what a man should be. Be proud in his masculinity. And this pressure to feminise men is absolutely outrageous, and we need to really reject that with everything we've got as a man and be proud of who we are. And don't feel ashamed of being a big masculine man. Live with it and be proud. That's my message to all those men out there. Be a man and be proud to be a man. Do you know what? Real women love that. Not these feminists.
Yeah, it depends what woman you're going for, right? I mean, I prefer my women shaved. I don't know about you guys. But some of these greeny women, especially in the universities, oh gosh. I won't go there anymore. I'll stop there for the viewers, guys.
No, it's fine. Because you're the guest, you're allowed to say whatever you want, which is great. We've got disclaimers for things like that. Dwayne's laughing, so that's the producer. He's loving it. So, awesome. Okay, so let's keep going.
Perhaps we should talk about what's feminine, or what is femininity in today's world. The feminine side of a woman is nurturing, caring, looking after. A family unit, for example. That's feminine. The masculine man traditionally went out and did the job, right? He went out and provided and protected the family.
He went to war and died.
And why his lovely wife would raise a home and family and look after everything. But now, governments have forced both partners to go out to work to get by. And those roles have been ruined, really. We've got by for hundreds and hundreds of years in that way, up till now, where everything is being distorted. And now we're questioning what gender we are, what's masculine, what's feminine, all because everyone has to go out to work. And I just feel sorry for the children we're being raised today. And with all this indoctrination in schools and safe schools programs and so on coming through, it's just absolute mayhem out there.
It definitely is. So I want to quickly finish off some of these quotes before we go to the next lot of messages. So she's now quoting research. Research has revealed that only drug addicts face the same degree of stigma as vegans, with men who have gone vegan for animal or environmental reasons being viewed even worse. But she doesn't quote which research this was done, so she just said there's research.
Who cares if you're vegan or you're not a vegan? Who cares? What absolute rubbish.
So the question is, does it actually matter to other people whether you're a vegan or not? Should you be allowed to force your opinions onto other people?
She's saying vegans are stigmatised by society and suffer some sort of prejudice. I mean, what rubbish. Seriously.
Don't they
Rubbish.
Don't they get their own shopping aisle at the shops and everything?
I don't know.
Oh, but then again, there is a meat aisle as well. So
And this is just the pursuit of grievance culture and the victimhood. It's just rubbish. You know what? Everyone's a victim.
You know what we need? We need a big victim card that we can give to people. So every time someone starts arcing up about this, we had a bit of a ceremony. Hey, congratulations! The victim card of the week goes to dun, dun, dun. So
Just send it to this journalist, mate.
I'm thinking that we might have to. So we're nearly done. If men were comfortable and confident in their masculinity, then it wouldn't matter about about the ideologies around something as simple as what you're eating. Oh, I really want to throw this back at her. So why should he have to be forced to eat like she says just because she wants to be a vegan? Isn't that totally contradictory to what she's saying in her own article? Joel? Yeah, I can see you nodding there.
It's vegan supremacy. That's what it is. That's what it sounds like. They're trying to conquer the world. It's very colonialist. I don't appreciate it.
I am vegan. Hear me roar. Sort of thing.
Exactly. How dare she, lecture to the Aboriginal community? How dare she lecture to other international Aboriginal populations and say you cannot eat meat? They've been doing this for tens of thousands of years. Who are you to tell them they can't eat the meat? That's my question. I think you better check your privilege because your card's been rejected.
Absolutely.
All right, and the final quote: if you're eating meat to prove your masculinity, then there are deeper issues that you need to address. But pushing the ideal but pushing this idea that real men eat meat is just one of the many things that continues this nation's toxic masculinity.
Do you know what, Travis? Real men do eat meat.
I think real men just don't care. It's like, if you want to eat vegan, go for it. I'll eat whatever I want, and you know what? You do you, I'll do me.
Can I be honest? I think real men, they just want to know what you want to eat. My poor friends, whenever they're out with their girlfriends, the first challenge is deciding what to eat. And if you can do that, then she's a keeper. You guys hold on to her. Don't let her go. But I mean, the fact you think they're going to worry? They're worried about if it's just a vegan food for the girlfriend or not? Not at all. Not at all. They just want a decision.
For the long-time listeners, they'll know I'm married, and I'll actually challenge you on this one, Joel. It's not getting them to actually decide what they want to eat. It's getting them to decide whether they will eat full stop or not. The amount of times I've gone somewhere, it's like, hey, are you hungry? Do you want anything to eat? No. Fine, I'll go get myself double quarter pound of meal deal, large chips, large fries, and then she eats half of it. Sorry, honey, but it's true. I think that's the real challenge, actually getting them to admit that they are hungry.
Yeah, you gotta, and this is where it's really healthy for a relationship because you get to know each other, and you order extra in that case, and that's one of the many things you can work on.
There's actually a restaurant in America where they've actually got the "I'm not hungry" menu. So when the guy comes up, hey, do you want anything? Oh no, I'm not hungry. So they'll add a couple of extra wings to their meal. So that way, it's such a problem that they've actually added it to the menu. I think that's phenomenal. So Charlie, have you ever had to deal with anything like this in your past relations?
No, never.
You lucky gentleman. Oh, Joel, I have to ask, past relationships, have you ever had a past partner tell you, you will eat this or you won't eat this?
Oh, no, I've never had that. No, I think I would never engage in a relationship with them until I knew what sort of person they were, and I feel like that sort of person, I'd click very quickly what kind of person they are to tell me what and what not to eat. But a word of advice for the relationships out there, and this is serious, this is a great rule. I can't remember who told it to me. I think it was Jordan Peterson. He said, never have a fight on an empty stomach. Go eat something and then come back and see how you feel. 100% of the time I tried that, we didn't end up fighting. We just forgot about what we were angry about. I was like, oh, okay. Well, this is awkward. A sushi roll just saved an argument. So, I mean, take that to the bank, guys.
Didn't Snickers make a whole ad series about that? You're just not you if you're hungry?
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, so on that note...
You're not yourself when you're angry. I think that's when you're hungry. That's it.
Yeah, hungry. So what we're going to do, we're going to quickly jump over to a message from our sponsors. I think I need to get a drink of water, so we don't go to a song as well. So we will be back very, very shortly. So this is Carter's Corner on 89.7 FM. I think once we get back from the message and the song, I think we should continue the dating line. And I want to discuss the dating app that New South Wales is bringing out. So we'll be back very shortly. So we've got the Honourable Charles Smith, West Australia Party, live in the studios. We've got Joel Jamal, YouTube superstar, live from, is it Sydney? Yeah, Sydney, Australia. He is the host and the creator of The Ark on YouTube. So make sure you go check it out. Just YouTube Joel Jamal and all his videos are there. Give him a like and a subscribe. And we'll be back shortly. Carter's Corner with Travis Carter, your host. We have Joel Jamal, host of The Ark, live in his studio from New South Wales, Australia. And across from me, on the blue mic, because it really matters, Charles Smith, the Honourable, one and only.
Well done, Travis. Thank you.
West Australia Party. Question for you. Now that you're not a West Australia politician, are you going to run federal?
Well, at the moment I would say no, because I need a party to belong to, which I am still a member of the West Australia Party, of course. There'll be other candidates who want to run for the Senate and lower house seats. But I will be reviewing my future in politics over the next sort of few months, I think.
Okay, awesome. I'm just curious. I just thought of it then. So we have been talking about the good old West Australia. That's the newspaper. Sorry, the West Australian. And the very, very interesting attack on male masculinity.
Shocking.
How dare you? Joel got it. So the New South Wales, I think it was the chief police officer, came. I don't know if there actually is an app yet, or he was discussing that, saying that my director, producer wants me to call it a F-book app.
Facebook?
No, it sounds like a duck. Anyway, I'm not sure why we can get away with that one. So he wants an app.
Well, don't we have things like Tinder for that anyway?
But it's for consent. So before you get down and dirty and do the horizontal mumbo, they want you to bump your phones together to say, hey, I've given this person consent to touch me in naughty places. Or something. I'm totally paraphrasing here.
The mind boggles, it really does. Yeah.
That's so strange. And couldn't you just go, oh, I've got consent now I can do whatever the hell I want.
Yes,
that might be even more dangerous.
So could you imagine someone getting their phone stolen, like you said, do the bump, and then going to town on someone without their actual consent?
Completely flip. They could be bipolar, and it's completely changed on them. It's like, okay, beautiful. I've got the consent in the court of law. This is what the New South Wales Commissioner or head officer has actually said. You can use this. And, and then she changes it. And you know what? I think a lot more cases won't come up because she'll be like, crap, I can't bring it up because I already put the consent. I can't withdraw it. And that's the problem. I think we need more information on this app so we understand exactly how it works.
There's just so many legal loopholes and dangers and pitfalls for this one. I think it's a really, really, really dangerous thing. Now, the question is, again, I don't know if this app's been created yet. Could this just be a case of the chief police officer going, you know what, we've got this much control over New South Wales and that. This is just me trying to get as much control as possible to control people and dictate what they're doing. They're saying, see, that the COVID restrictions are starting to fall away. Is this just another chance to control population control?
What New South Wales seems to be suffering from is yet another politically correct police commissioner, just like we've got in Western Australia. I've been calling the guy here the PC commissioner for the past few years, right? He's a politically correct commissioner, does what he's told by the current government, introduces woke stuff. It stinks of the same thing in New South Wales. Just creeping wokeism coming into the police force.
Should the police commissioners actually have that sort of authority, or is that in the realm of politicians and this is just the woke police commissioners overstepping their bounds?
Of course it is. Nothing to do with police commissioners.
Joel, do you Has he frozen? No, we've still got Joel. Do you think this is just...
I'm still here. I'm just reading some of the comments from Nick Fuller. A lot of people have been saying in New South Wales that his comments are just they're naive, and this guy's like 60 years old. It doesn't reflect the realities of sexual intercourse.
Well, quite.
I'm glad you said it so politely. I won't get in trouble for that one. Do you think that other groups, like now that the police commission has gone around, hey, we can control this aspect of people's lives, is there going to be further things like you have to bump phones before you talk to people, or how far do you think they'll actually try to take this?
Who knows? Maybe you can't come within my 1.5 metre radius without bumping, approving on the app. Who knows, man? Well, I don't know. The sky's the limit. Once you give them an inch, they take a mile.
Well, quite. I mean, we seem to be getting bigger and bigger government control over our lives during this whole COVID process, right? And they're bringing in all sorts of things under the guise of COVID-19 to keep us all safe, right? And this is just yet another example. If you want to go down a cafe in Perth, you've got to sign in. Like, why? Why have you got to sign in and tell the government you've gone to a cafe? I mean, it's complete nonsense. I refuse to do it.
I've heard they're trying to bring out, in a lot of Asian countries now, they've got facial recognition in the CCTVs that's in public places. So they're trying to track people wherever they go now as well.
Well, that's...
I just picked up on something. Sorry, you guys finish the thought.
Well, it's... Face tracking technology is nothing new.
No.
It's... They use the model over in communist China, and it's slowly being exported around the world. So governments know what all the citizens are doing, and we have to object to that.
So I have to ask...
They've got facial recognition cameras in Perth. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know they had them in Perth.
So East Perth has facial recognition cameras.
Okay, guess I won't be getting coffee in East Perth anymore. Now, Joel, you've had a eureka moment. Share with us.
No. So look, in the Commissioner Fuller's defence, he did say this might be the worst idea I've had all year. I just want to do that as a pretense to this. But he did say that this app, the problem we're seeing across Australia right now is an increase of sexual assaults. In 2020, we saw it rise by 10%, and so bringing with a total of 15,000 women coming forward. Now, first off, it's excellent that more women are coming forward if that's what's going on, because it means we're creating an environment where they feel safe to come forward. However, I do want to note this, and we know this from Dr. Scott Atlas in America, who argued against lockdowns for this very reason. Sexual assaults go out under lockdowns, especially within families, especially with little kids. And this is the problem, guys. I'd be very worried about the relationship between lockdowns and the increased level of sexual assaults. Now, are we focusing on the toxic masculinity side of it, or are we focusing on poor government policies? I don't know. We need more of a discussion on this. I don't have all the answers, but this is the thing that struck me just from reading his comments and his justifications.
So I want to play devil's advocate here. I've done a lot of stuff against the family law court, especially around perjury. My question is that I want to ask, how many of these, and first of all, before I say this, sexual assault against anyone, whether you're male, female, children, whatever, it's all wrong, okay? So a common thing we're seeing in a lot of family disputes, when there's no real place to argue, sexual assault is being brought up. Oh, they did this, they done that. No evidence, no... it didn't happen. So, and then you have a look at what happened to Christian Porter. That was like 30 years ago. I personally know someone who had something similar happen to. Now, this was actually a guy that it happened to, who got groomed. Well, I'll leave it there because I haven't got full consent to use his story yet. Who got groomed 30 years ago, and again hasn't brought it up. So, at what point are these people coming forward? Is it for their own personal gains that they came forward? Like you said earlier, they had consent first and they changed the consent and the person didn't listen? Or like this, you can't just say that there's been an increase because there's so many more issues going on involved in this one. At the time, there could have been consent, then there was a breakup in the relationship. So that, you know what, I'm going to get back at you. I'm going to put you up for sexual assault. So I'd love to see, of all these sexual assault allegations that are coming forward, again, I think it's fantastic that people are feeling safe enough to be able to come forward with this sort of stuff. It shows that the police are actually doing the right job. They are taking these reports. I'd love to see the discrepancies of how many people have come forward, how many people haven't followed through with the pressing charges, and how many of them have been proven to be false. So we need all the information. And now, to take it one step further, did he come on to and make these statements as a bit of a distraction over some of the things that, like you said before, the sexual assault allegations go up during lockdown? Is this just a way to disguise, hey, something else is going on over here, but let's make another sexual assault allegation to try and distract the people from what's really going on?
Charles?
Yeah. Oh, Charlie's shaking his head. So
Well,
could it be?
potentially, I mean, governments use distractions all the time. It is a strategy that governments put in place. If they try and hide announcements around news items and try and cause distractions, they can get legislation passed without people noticing and so on. So it could be a political tactic that the Morrison government is using, for sure.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm definitely not. I don't think any of us are definitely coming out and saying it, but it raises some serious questions. And this is the problem, guys. Isn't this the problem? We all want more information. We know that lockdowns are not working very well. From a UK study, and I covered this on my show, Nigel Farage, measured Nawaz. He's got his own channel on LBC. He covered this story. He covered this story about a UK study which revealed that lockdowns cause 10 times more deaths. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And what does that take into consideration? It takes into consideration suicides, anxiety, depression, people not being screened for cancer, people not being screened for a bunch of different diseases, some even autoimmune diseases, and as a result of not catching many of these things early, they pass away. This is terrible. This is absolutely terrible.
Yeah. So what I want to do, I just noticed the time. We do need to go to another message. We are actually a little bit over for our next guest that will be calling in. So we will be discussing, hopefully I can grab her on the phone. I was supposed to call her like 20 minutes ago. So her name is Debbie from Dare to Date. It's one of the largest dating groups in Perth. So earlier we said we want to discuss about dating and how dangerous it is dating with this the consent app and what's going on with all the sexual assault allegations and stuff like that. So I do want to get Debbie on to have a chat to her, and because also she's a lady, so I want to hear from the lady's perspective. Does she think this consent app is actually a good thing or not? So we're going to go to a quick message from our sponsors, and then we're going to go to a song, and we'll be back. So this is Carter's Corner with Travis Carter, the Honourable Charles Smith, live in the studio with us, and Joel Jamal, all the way from his studios in Sydney, Australia. We'll be right back after this. All right, Carter's Corner is back here again, live in the studios in Perth. Now, I forgot to turn on the phone. All right, so we're here, Carter's Corner, 98.7. You can listen live at 98.7fm.com.au. You can also follow it on the Facebook, Carter's Corner. The YouTube has been renamed to Carter's Corner.
Amazing.
Now, we've also got Joel Jamal live from the New South Wales studio for the founder and creator of The Ark. We've got the Honourable Charles Smith from the West Australia Party in here with us now. Now, we also have our next guest. So, Debbie, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Fantastic. So, I'm just looking at Dwayne to check the levels out there. Dwayne, can we hear Debbie okay? Debbie, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Awesome. So we've got your sounds. We're doing a little bit new. We've got live streams. We've got Skype. We've got Debbie on the phone. We're using all platforms at the moment, and I just want to make sure everything's good. So Debbie is part of a group called Dare to Date, who, last time I spoke to her, she was doing speed dating. Is that right, Debbie?
Yep. So I do speed dating, singles events of all sorts in Perth, and I have been doing for 10 years now.
Awesome. So just bear with me for a moment, Debbie, because the Honourable Charles Smith does not have headphones. He can't hear you. There's a headphone in the corner.
I can't hear either, by the way, so it might be for the best.
Ah, spewing. So we did not expect that to happen. So I'll do the interview then. So Debbie, what we've been talking about is the at the moment there's been a lot of the stats, massive increases to sexual assaults going on. There's been all the politicians been getting attacked at the moment for sexual assault allegations that happened like 30 years ago, and now the New South Wales Police Commissioner has recommended that we get an app out, a consent app. There's not one yet. He said it's probably not his smartest thing to do, but the thought is there. So the question is, for someone who's actually involved in the dating scene, who's involved in organising dating and stuff like that, how have you noticed since COVID, how much changes have actually happened on the dating scene since, say, the last 12 months?
Oh, look, I think it's changed dating for the better, which goes against what you're saying, but people have valued dating a lot more than they had before. So where it was more of a hookup culture, a lot of people have been looking for a relationship online more so than the past. I mean, you're always going to get the people that are on there for the wrong reasons. It's the nature of some sort of apps at times.
Okay, fantastic. So obviously with the speed dating side of things, do you have a thing where you actually screen the people who can actually attend prior to the dating, or is it a bit of a free-for-all?
Look, no, it's not screened. It's whoever books into the event comes along. I mean, look, in the decade that I've been running it, I've not had any issues with in that time with anyone. I think I've had one complaint in 10 years. Generally, people are there for the right reasons and want to meet people in a real-life environment.
Sorry, the producer's just putting a message up at me. So do you, as someone who does organise these events, do you find that people are more safer these days, especially considering there's so many, the number of rape allegations and sexual assault allegations are going up? Do you find it still a safe environment, especially in the Perth scene, to be openly dating and going out and meeting new people?
Look, I think with some of the issues that are coming up, they've always been issues that have happened, things like rape and sexual allegations. Apps can make that easier to happen. However, sometimes the behaviour that people do, meeting people you don't know, you should always meet them in a public place. So, do you know what I mean? Some of those, if you use apps or meeting people, you can keep yourself a lot safer and not be at so much risk.
Okay, let's throw it the other way then, because one of the other things we were talking about, consent isn't a permanent thing. So let's say you meet someone, you really, really like the person, and you decide you do want to have cuddles and whatnot. I'm trying to keep it clean for radio. And you progress to a certain stage, and then the person turns out not to be who you thought, and you choose to remove that consent. Do you think having the consent app there to give physical evidence that consent was given, do you think that becomes a danger, that it could actually cause more real assaults than less, and then sort of like an scapegoat for the people who do commit those crimes? Yeah,
look, I think the app, looking at it, is probably an issue. A rapist could force consent. So does that consent actually stand? How, what level of proof would you have about that consent? I think it's got more problems than it's got solutions, to be honest.
Okay, great. So again, just going back, as yourself being a lady, being involved with the dating side of things, do you think the app is a good idea? Do you think a consent app is needed in the dating scene these days?
Look, I think something like that could have a lot of problems. Like, how do you know that person's entered consent? How can you prove that? Like, I can't. I think even the New South Wales minister thought it was an issue, or the police guy thought it was an issue after he suggested it, because sometimes you can come up with an idea that you haven't thought through. I mean, I think maybe teaching people what consent is, teaching men what consent is probably a better option than an app.
Okay, so we've got Charles Smith in here.
Hello.
He did raise some eyebrows on that one. So you can hear okay now, Charles?
I can. Hi, Debbie.
Hi.
What do you mean by teaching men what consent is? Do you expand on what you mean.
Well,
by
I
that.
suppose you hear a lot of things like women being blamed, women shouldn't do this and women shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be clear, no means no, really.
Isn't that something
Without
that,
going into, I mean, there's always going to be nuances in that, like halfway through, and I'm probably not going to get into that debate.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it seems that I don't really understand the modern dating world as you may do, and I guess I'm a bit more traditional in my outlook, and I don't even really understand why we need dating apps. I mean, why do younger men and women find it so very difficult to meet somebody without going to like a dating service? I mean, what's happened to people?
And look, people have stopped talking to each other when they go out. And look, I hear from a lot of, decent men that they're scared that if they approach that they could get into trouble. But the reality is the people that are usually scared of the wrong approach have nothing to worry about. The people that are likely to, to go down that road aren't scared of it at all. So, if you're talking to someone when you're out and you're respectful, there's no issue talking, but people have stopped talking to each other when they're out, which is sad.
Why?
I think
what's happened?
Well, I think it's a sad world. People are on their phones too much, but, you can still go talk to people in bars. You can still talk to people when you're out. And, a lot of people wish that they talk to each other. So I think that, get back to some of those good old-fashioned, values would be good for the dating world. Let's talk to people out.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's a real shame that men, in particular, feel that that they can't approach a woman who they might find attractive and want to introduce themselves to without feeling that somehow they're doing something wrong. I think it's really sad.
And I think so too. And I think sometimes that maybe it's a worry that they don't need to have, but maybe you listen to what's in the media and it puts a lot of fear out there. I know that even people using dating apps have a lot of fear attached to it, but sometimes there's more horror stories than there's a lot of good news stories from people meeting out, people meeting on apps, people meeting at events, and, there's a lot of great behaviour rather than all the negative stuff we hear.
Sure, okay. Travis?
Sorry.
No, it's all good. So what's happening, we've got a few, like I said, we've got multiple platforms here. So we have got Joel watching on us, but we've had a few people trying to call in. So I don't know if Joel knows this or not. It looks like you've blurred your background.
Yeah, that's my bad. I actually did listen to that. What I was doing, I was listening to the live feed online, and it was actually quite a fascinating discussion. Did you want to I'll give my quick take, or did you want to?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it, Joel.
Now, look, one of the things that was brought into my university was a mandatory sexual consent app, which actually had a module where you'd learn the different aspects of consent. But the problem that I had with it wasn't that so much. It was the fact that they mandated it, so they would withhold my university results and, in some cases, not let me graduate if I didn't complete this test, even though it was my last semester. I don't have a problem with more education on this, I'll be honest with you on this. Now, I do have a bit of a problem when it goes a bit too young, these sex ed things in sexual education cases in junior school, younger than the age of 12. But when it's a bit older than that, I actually don't have a problem when they talk about looking at the body language of the partner, when they talk about the different things you need to look for with consent. I'm not that averse to that as people might think. But I do get it. There is often an undercurrent that only men can do this stuff because obviously men are more, masculine and in terms of what they do. And by the way, I'm not sure if you're interrupting me because I can't actually hear you. I'm not being rude. But look, I am very open to actually more education on this, but I don't like the demonization of masculinity, and I don't like it when often a lot of these things get mandated like they did at my university. But I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this.
All right. So, Debbie, did you hear all that?
I did. And look, I would agree. I don't like the demonising of men either because those sorts of discussions doesn't help anyone in particular. And, and I do think going under 12 and some of the education that's out there, I wouldn't agree with either. Like kids can be kids for a bit longer before they have to be exposed to some of that stuff. So I think having some good, honest discussions without attacking each other is a better solution in the long run as genders.
I'm going to throw a question out there to all of you. We'll start with Debbie first. Do you think the breakdown of the family unit, so when I say the family unit, the husband, the wife, the kids, do you think the breakdown, because, and especially considering how high the divorce rates or the separation rates are at the moment, do you think that's had a large impact on the way people look at things like sexual relationships with each other, and that just the general communications around these issues has been affected in society lately?
I think society has changed a lot. What wasn't, acceptable 20 years ago has drastically changed. I'm not sure if that's, the breakdown of the family or just a changing values of what is and isn't acceptable, really.
Okay. You guys, do you want to follow up on that question? Okay. So, Joel, did you hear the question?
Yes, I did actually. I didn't hear.
I'm not sure if that's...
Hang on, we had a bit of feedback there on you, Joel, so we're getting both the live stream and you at the same time. So I've just muted you for a minute. We'll throw to Charlie first.
What's that, mate?
So do you think the breakdown of the family unit is partially responsible for the changes of the way people look at sexual relationships and how they interact with each other?
Or how they try and find a partner? I think, as Debbie was alluding to, society... what it finds acceptable changes over the years, right? So how a man would behave 20, 30, 50 years ago is different to how they behave now. And I would say we're poorer for that. I mean, as I've said before, I'm quite traditional in my outlook. I would like to, open doors, put ladies first, etc., and so on, choose wine for someone, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know if that's still appropriate now. I mean, perhaps Debbie can help us out.
I think there's plenty of women that still love that.
So, all right, Jamal, we'll give you a shot again. So do you think the breakdown of the family unit is partially responsible for the change at the way people react towards each other, especially on like the sexual relationships and being able to talk about sexual issues?
No, 100%. It's not a question in my mind. Let's get cancelled. Why not? I'll get cancelled today. There's a correlation between the breakdown of the family unit and the collapse of a civilization, and we know this from looking at history. If you look at Rome, there's a direct correlation, and this doesn't mean that we can't avert this, but we need to be aware that it's very important for men and women to have role models in their life. For example, the fact that I have two sisters, two nieces, and a mum is very important in how I treat other women. It's very important because there's that relationship that we have and that respect that we developed. Similarly, with girls having siblings and obviously a father and nephews, it's a similar situation. I think it's very important that we look at, what do they say? It takes a village to raise a child. I truly believe that, and I think that the more we start to realize, especially the rates of fatherlessness, the more we start to realize how impactful not having a father around is, then the better I think we can move forward as a society. And that ties in well with the feminist narrative, actually, because what it means is, hey, blokes, get your stuff together. We've got a job to do, and when you fail at that job, then the whole of society fails. So we've got a lot of work to do. Sure.
I mean, some female friends often say, that there's nothing more attractive than a man who's got his shit together, right? So it goes from there. Yeah.
All right, so what I need to do is, we're up to the hour, so I do need to put a few messages on. Now, Debbie, it's been really fascinating having you on. Are you happy to stick around for another 20 minutes or so?
Yeah, sure.
Fantastic. So we're just going to go to a quick message. I can see my producer shaking his head right now. So we're going to go to a message, and we'll be back in about a minute and 40 seconds. So we'll be right back. This is Carter's Corner with Travis Carter. We've got Joel Jamal on the Skype from New South Wales. We've got Charles Smith in the studio, live on the other microphone. And then on the phone, we have Debbie from Dare to Date. We'll be back just after this. All right, Travis Carter, Carter's Corner. We're here again. So obviously, I'm Travis Carter, the host of the show. We've got Joel Jamal, the host from The Ark, live in his studios in New South Wales. We've got the Honourable Charles Smith sitting across from me on the blue mic from the West Australia Party. And on the phone, I'm hoping we've still got her. We've got Debbie from Dare to Date, one of the Perth's biggest online speed dating services. Debbie, you're still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Fantastic. Great. So the boss doesn't like it when I say fantastic too much. Anyway, so one of the things I want to know, Debbie, what is one of the strangest things you've ever seen happen at one of your events?
Do you know, I once had a guy try to take his pants off and run around the balcony of Rigby's when he couldn't go talk to the women he wanted to.
Bless.
I don't think there was any consent there, but it was pretty strange. The other strangest thing I had is a guy was dragged off the balcony at Rigby's by his girlfriend for speed dating. So they're probably the worst incidents I had, all at the same venue that doesn't exist anymore.
It's a shame because Rigby's was a really, really great bar. It was owned by Greg Walker,
It was.
WAFL footy star. So awesome gentleman. Wow. Okay, so we've got two strapping gentlemen in the studio here with us, and I'm including you here, Joel. So, as a lady yourself, what are some of the key characteristics in a gentleman that you find most appealing?
I think, Debbie, Travis is trying to say, what is the modern woman looking for in a man nowadays?
Oh, I thought he was talking to someone else. Okay, what women want hasn't changed. We want a strong, confident guy that we feel safe with. Like, I don't think it's essentially changed. Women often want the old-fashioned values of a guy that they can count on. Whereas a lot of time what women get is guys that don't want commitment and just want to hook up.
Sure, okay. So men, they still need to be masculine and they need to be leaders to attract the women. Now, we've had a segment on tonight around this so-called toxic masculinity. What's your view on all that stuff?
Look, I don't really like the word toxic masculinity. I think that women still want a strong man, and I think making men wrong doesn't help women at all. I think having more, like I said before, more honest, open conversations makes a big difference in that space. But men feel a bit attacked in this world, and I probably don't like to see the effects. I think we can be, we can embrace our feminine side and feminine power and all of that stuff without having to attack the masculine.
Sure. I
think we work together perfectly.
I think it's causing greater harm to society. I mean, I have two teenage boys, and they are witness to this kind of bad culture, and they really don't want to speak to girls in their school or have much to do with them, and that's a great concern to me.
Yeah, and me too, and it's sad when men don't know how to speak to women or think it might be wrong. So that's not helping. But I think sometimes that's not really understanding what women are saying in this space too, if that makes sense.
Okay, so really, women, they want a masculine man. Soy boys, they're out. Is that right?
What was that? Soy boys.
Soy boys. So guys with man buns, pretty much.
Oh no, they're quite good too. They could still be masculine.
Are you sure?
Lap 5.
Too much soy.
Well, he does play for Fremantle.
There you go.
Oh, that's nasty. I can see Joel smirking. He's listening in on the live stream. So, Joel, just pop your hand up if you do want to ask another question to Debbie. We'll be able to cut the stream and let you catch up with us. So, again, masculine men who aren't afraid to talk about their feelings, who don't mind a soy latte every now and then. So we're having a bit of fun with you here. So with the guys, because don't forget, with Dare Today, there's not just the women out there looking, there's also the men out there looking for partners as well. Have you noticed there's been a big change in what men are actually looking for in a potential partner?
No, I think men still look for a woman who is kind, warm and friendly and feels good to be with. So I don't think anything exactly has changed, except we've got more of a hookup culture where people are less connected with each other than they have been before.
So,
Do you know what I mean? There's so many people out there that want relationships and aren't finding them because, there's never been more ways to meet people, but it's never been harder for people to meet. So I think what people are looking for is pretty similar. It's just harder to find.
Yeah, so women really are looking for the masculine, and men are looking for the feminine. Despite contemporary culture sort of pushing women to be more manlike and so on, it's also rather confusing for everyone.
I really like, John Gray wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. He's written a book Beyond Mars and Venus, and he talks about how, as men and women, we need balance, right?
Yeah.
So we've all got masculine and feminine in us. And if one's out of balance, so in the cultures where women are suppressed from following their dreams, they go follow masculine careers. But in the ones like Sweden where, there's equal equality, women will follow feminine stuff. So we tend to naturally seek some balance between the two of us. And I think sometimes with what's going on now, sometimes the pendulum swings one way because women have not been heard, all of that stuff, and then it comes back into balance, hopefully.
Okay, I can see Joel smirking and nodding and laughing at there. It looks like you've got a bit of a question there, Joel. You got any more questions for Debbie? Because we are running out of time with her.
Look, I'm sure I could talk forever with Debbie, but I just found it very fascinating. She pointed out what's happening, I think she said in the Netherlands, was it? And how they've gotten the closest thing to equality, and yet they still found that, the biology still wins out in the end. And it's fascinating. I get really worried about the men, and especially the women, who have been sold what I believe is a pup, thinking that they don't need a partner, they can just live promiscuously all their life. I just don't think it's true. But in terms of a question for Debbie, geez, I can't think of any one. I feel like we could honestly chat forever. But I just wanted to thank Debbie for her insight. It's been very insightful, as I said.
Okay, so Debbie, what we'll do, we do need to wrap up pretty shortly, so I want to give you the floor. So give your Dare Today a plug. If someone wants to join your speed dating group, how do they get a hold of you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
Oh, okay. So I've got a website, so daretodate.com.au, or go on Facebook or Instagram. So what I basically do is I run events, but I also do a lot of coaching. So I do work with people of how to embrace the feminine, the masculine energy, all of that stuff, but also to have the skills to be successful in the dating world. Because, I do agree that people are happier. This whole idea that we don't need love is a fallacy. I think they've found that the lack of, a strong relationship is the equivalent risk of 15 cigarettes a day. So my passion is helping people find those strong relationships because the hookups don't fill that gap, really.
All right. So
Absolutely.
It's very true. Very, very wise words. Now, I do have another question, which I just thought of. With the rise of more and more people becoming a part of the LGBTQ community, plus all the other letters, which I don't really understand, do you find that there's a lot of people reaching out to groups like yourselves, like Dare to Date, saying, are you doing like LGBTQ events?
In the past I have attempted to run them, but there hasn't been a demand for them at all. In fact, on the occasions where I've been inclusive, I haven't got the numbers to run the events. I think I ran one in 10 years.
I find that really fascinating, considering how much the media is pushing. Like, we have to be this, we have to do that, and for there not to be enough numbers. Do you think that's sort of like a thing where there's in Perth, because we are a little bit behind the times compared to like over east and a lot of the other countries around the world? Do you think they're still scared to show their true colours? Like, hey, you know what? I am attracted to a man, or yes, I am attracted to women. Do you think that's
No, I don't. I don't think so. I think the thing is, because Perth's small, they can go to certain venues, and a lot of them know each other and they know of each other. So the need to want to pay for an event to go to meet, there was actually more a demand from the men than there was from the women.
Interesting. So awesome.
Which is interesting. So I don't think we're big enough to have the demand, or, they may think that we need it. I just have never been able to find enough people to run them.
Okay, that's very, very interesting, considering how much we have to, especially the government is pushing to promote the LGBT community. So nothing against the LGBTQ community, but it's just interesting that in this regard there's not enough demand for a service like yours. So I wonder if it really is as great of an issue in society as what the media is putting it out to be. So what I'm going to do, Debbie, I'm going to go jump into a message from our sponsors very shortly. I have to say a massive thank you for coming on to the show. We do struggle a little bit to get the ladies on the show, so thank you for being brave enough to come on.
I wasn't sure what I was coming into.
Hopefully our two guests weren't too mean to you. So
no, they were actually very kind.
That's very nice.
Yeah, so Debbie, you've been absolutely awesome. So I wish you luck with the business, and hopefully you get at least another 10 years out of Dare to Date. So we have Joel Jamal, all the way from New South Wales, Australia. We've got the Honourable Charles Smith in the studio with us here right now, and obviously myself, I'm Travis Carter, and we've had Debbie from Dare to Date on the phone with us. So multiple platform cross.
And men, get your shit together.
Key words there, Charlie. So anyway, we're going to go to a quick message and a song, and when we come back, we're going to be finishing up with the last segment of the show. So this is Carter's Corner. We'll be back shortly. So we are Carter's Corner. We have Joel Jamal, all the way from Sydney, Australia. We have Charles Smith, the Honourable from the West Australia Party, and obviously me, your one and only, Travis Carter, the host and creator of Carter's Corner.
Amazing.
So we just had Debbie from Dare to Date. I found that quite interesting, personally. I wasn't sure what to expect.
Well, she's basically rebuking that horrendous article we saw in the West Australian No newspaper today. So there you go.
I was really, really impressed with it, actually. Not what I expected, so it was really, really good. So, like I said, on the show, we don't filter people out. Anyone who's requested to come on, we let them on. So it's just a matter of actually finding time to make sure we can fit everyone in. So, like I said, we do have Joel on the show. He's been a very, very busy person over the last couple of weeks. So he's just come back all the way from Canberra. Did you drive or fly?
I drove.
So what sort of time frame are we looking here? Because in Perth, like next city over is like four and a half hours away, like Geraldton. So Canberra to New South Wales, what is it, like 20 minutes?
It's a 3-hour drive, yeah, if you don't speed.
There you go.
Key word there, if you don't speed.
Do they have autobans in Canberra?
Yeah.
So let's tell everyone out there, because this is a really big one. We've had the Brereton report come out. What were you doing in Canberra, Joel?
Right, look, I was basically trying to push for a Royal Commission into veteran suicides, and there have been a ton of people parliamentarians been pushing for it, and non-parliamentarians as well. But it's something that the Prime Minister has basically moved on this week, and it seems like he's gotten across the line. It's been a problem, as Charlie was saying to me in the break. People have been, like himself, have been advocating it for decades. But now it seems like the stars have aligned on this, especially with the fallout from the Brereton report and how that's made the military community feel, especially in WA, stripping veterans of their medals, throwing the diggers under the bus while the officers get off scot-free with their lovely cars. We're in a situation now where the time is ripe to strike, and it seems like we will be getting a Royal Commission and another commission on the side, running side by side with it, appointing a ongoing person to sort of look into this and take care of these veteran affairs.
Okay, so for the people out there who don't really get into what's going on with the Brereton report, especially with who don't have veterans in their family, give them a quick rundown. What was the Brereton report about?
Yeah, sure. So there were a ton of accusations made against the SAS squad, which is the elite of the Australian military, very elite, and world-renowned, actually. The SAS actually trained the Israeli military. A lot of people don't know this. Back in, I think, the late early 50s or 40s. The SAS had a number of accusations levelled against them, and as a result, there was the commission of the Brereton report, or the Royal Commission into what's going on there, to work out, is there brutality, to what extent does it go. So they looked at a number of the foreign involvements that these companies had, and they came back with a ton of results. And, you know, we know that there's a lot of military people have been calling this out for years, whether it's blooding, which is something that's I won't talk on radio about. It's fairly disgusting, but whether it's different strategies to get people exposed to combat early, and it's not a good. It's been very insightful about how it's been run, the military. But the problem is, and I've raised it on my show many times in the past, actually, with Ricardo Bossi, who's former SAS. The problem is, it ends up throwing this report throws the diggers under the bus, and a lot of the diggers had their medals stripped from them, even if they were uninvolved. In fact, I think we've actually seen a spike in veteran suicides as a result of the Brereton report and the diggers being thrown under the bus. Not the officers. The officers got off scot-free. They're fine. They haven't lost their job. And by the way, the man that presented, Angus Campbell, the man that presented this report he was actually in command of the Afghanistan forces at the time of a lot of these offences. So it's not affecting him, not at all. It's almost like a virtue signal. If you come out and say, oh no, this is bad, even though you're the one that was actually presiding over it, then people are like, oh, he's calling it out. He's a good guy. He's being a traitor to his own sort of people that he's over command of. That's not okay. And that's not flying. I think from what I've talked with you, Travis, about, that's not flying well with the WA community, is it?
Well, I mean, for me, this is just crazy. Lots of things happen, as we know, in the fog of war, right? Lots of things happen in a combat situation. But to demonise soldiers who are in those terribly difficult zones and throw them under the bus, I mean, the government has behaved disgracefully, I think. Soldiers deserve the full support of our government. I really don't understand what they think they're trying to achieve by doing all the virtue signalling around what happens in war zones. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, I can't explain it.
I think the other thing a lot of people are missing, especially with the Brereton report, a lot of these diggers, when they are over there, when they're part of the SAS, they're there, they're not, you know, they're gone for 2 weeks and then they're back again. They're there for months and months and months, and sometimes even years at a time. So the thing you got to look at is the rate at which families break down, so divorce, separation happens, the level of cheating against whether it's a male or a female soldier that's away. The level of breakdowns of the family structure is huge, and a lot of these soldiers have their medals to say, you know what, the government still respects what I've done. They honour me for what I've done. And then when they start stripping them, they're going, I've destroyed my family, I've killed people, I've done this sort of stuff on the instructions of the Australian government, and now they're taking all my dignity away from me. I've got nothing left. And you've got to remember, a lot of these diggers, once they get back, they can't work normal jobs because of the hell that they've been through. The level of mental and emotional stress that these people go through, especially the SAS, because you've got to remember, these aren't the ones that you just patrol around, make sure everything's safe. These are the ones that they send into the bunkers to, 1 versus 20 people sort of thing, to get, rescue people, to assassinate people. Like, these are the top of the top, was it? These are not your normal people.
I think there's an old adage, Travis, that we are kept safe by brave men who are prepared to do dirty jobs on our behalf.
Yeah.
And then to demonise those same people is just a total disgrace.
And the worst bit about it is it's not just that they're stripping the people that are doing the deed, but their boss is the one that says, right, you've got to go do this. Because if you turn around and tell your commanding officer, no, I'm not doing this, you're discharged. Everything you've gone through is lost. So...
Well, the worst part about it is the spike in veteran suicides after the report came out. I mean, there's a direct correlation. What is going on, guys? This is ridiculous. You cannot do this, throw them under the bus, the officers get off scot-free, and on top of all of that, we get veteran spikes in suicides? Are you kidding me? What are you doing? This is who is doing this? Why are we undermining our military? We need these people. We've got massive overseas threats going on right now. By the way, I forgot to mention this before. While we've got the woke ideology undermining masculinity, calling it toxic masculinity, over in China, they've got their head of education, the Minister for Education over there, saying we need to educate our boys to be more masculine. Why is that? Yep. We all need to ask that question. Why is that? Be under no illusions. China is gearing up for war, whether it's with Taiwan in the next 6 years, as a Obama official, a former Obama general, actually said recently. He said that within 6 years, Taiwan's going to get invaded one way or another.
So there's a lot of reports talking about how dangerous and how close we were actually to war pre-COVID, to the point where there's actually a lot of memes going out about people joking that America was going to war, but their friends got sick. So it would be very, very interesting, especially when, like you said, China, it seems to be like a separate set of rule books as well. So China has been accused of a lot of problems. Obviously, everything that's going on with COVID. Prior to that, human right violations with the, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, the Rohingyas, like the...
Uyghurs.
What is it? The
Uyghur.
Uyghur Muslims.
Yes. Yeah, so putting the Muslims into effectively what can be called concentration camps. Now you have a look at the environmental impact side of things. So Australia and Kirkup from the Liberal Party saying we've got to stop all coal production by the next election, but yet China's building like thousands of coal-fired power plants. Like, what the hell's going on? Why is all these different countries got a whole different set of rules? And yet then we've got these veteran reports going on trying to destroy our veterans. I just find it really, really strange. Like, why weren't the seniors, like the senior officials, like the commanders, pulled into this as well? Because the soldiers were doing what they were doing because they were under instructions.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the question I like to ask people. You can tell that I'm a child of immigrants because I actually love this country. I think it's a great place. What we've got here is a blip in history, and everything we're doing to undermine what makes the country great is leading us closer and closer, step by step, to a suicide for the country. That's what's going on. And that's what's happening with these veterans. If you don't have their back, then why should they hang around any longer?
Yeah,
this is terrible.
I agree, Joel. I mean, I often say to people that Western culture is committing suicide, and for no real reason at all. And I just don't get the self-flagellation, the self-hatred of Western tradition and culture. And there's no reason to be killing ourselves. No reason at all. But we are.
Exactly. And where does it lead? It leads to this right here. The collapse of Rome.
Yeah.
So,
it's a cycle of empire.
So I've got a question for you then. So our military is becoming more feminine when they should be extremely masculine. Men in general are being...
Feminised.
Feminised, yep. I was going to say downtrodden, but yeah, we'll go with feminised. Do you think this is because that we lack leadership in the positions of authority within Australia? Do you think Scott Morrison, Bill Shorten, Albanese, over in WA, people like Mark McGowan, they're just failing and they're not doing their job properly? Or is it on an educational level where the schools are... the deans of the schools are going around intentionally trying to jeopardise the next generations?
It's multifaceted. I wish I could. Well, we don't have time. It's multifaceted. We're basically all looking to politics, which is basically a false religion now, to solve all our problems, because we're replacing basically what we're worshipping in the place of God. That's what I believe. We used to get our morals from God, and we didn't question it, and we're in a situation where courage was held up as a very high standard, but now courage would probably be lumped in with toxic masculinity. And if we're not going to be courageous, and and the wise men of our societies, many of which universities, are going to sell us out, as many of them have to China, then what are we doing, guys? And this is the point. We can lose. A lot of people don't realise this. We can lose what we've got. Just because it's here right now, you won't realise it's gone till it's gone. And that's a problem, because it means that young people like myself, I'm only 20, I turned 24 recently. Yeah, many young people like myself, they're not aware of these issues. They're not aware of the oncoming $1.3 trillion in debt. And the longer our politicians don't have the courage to tell us that this debt is going to be a problem, that China's going to be a problem, that we're going to have some rough years ahead, then we're creating weak men, and men will lead to the collapse of society.
As you say, it's just a lack of leadership through the entire culture, from our leading politicians to our university vice-chancellors to school teachers. It's a lack of leadership to what's important to our culture. And they seem to be under the cosh of left-leaning cultural Marxist doctrine and undermining everything that we once held dear as a society. You know, if you look back to the 1950s to now, there's an enormous change. The model role family, going to church on a Sunday morning, it's all stopped, and everything is just falling apart from there. And like I said, for no real reason at all.
Exactly, and with leadership, I keep saying the word courage, it's most important. And it reminds me of this great quote from former Deputy Prime Minister John Anderson. He was the Deputy Prime Minister under John Howard. He was our acting Prime Minister during 9/11. And this was his quote he said recently. He says, "Wisdom is the ability to point out consequences, and courage is the ability to point those consequences out." Just because someone's wise doesn't mean that they're courageous, and we can't assume that from our university lecturers, for example. And this is why I think this is why a lot of us might get offended when they call conservatives or right-leaning people deplorables. The people raising the flag and blowing the whistle on this stuff are courageous. Are they the wisest people in society? Are they the most informed, intellectual? Do they all use rounded vowels? No, they don't. But that's not the point. They're courageous. They're being intellectually honest. They're telling you, I've got a problem, and here it is. And what do we see? We see weasels. We see beta males who are willing to say whatever it is to get into a girl's pants. We're seeing a situation where politicians will whisper sweet nothings into your ear, saying, "No, don't worry about the national debt. It's fine. Your money will be fine. We're not going to get inflation." And here we are.
Absolutely.
Well, he's right. He's right. So I want to bring this one back to the Brereton report. So we're seeing whether it's intentional or not, there's a clear attack on the Australian military. The military has always been a source of strength and masculinity and pretty much everything that's good. With the Royal Commission that's just been ordered, has it actually been finalised, or is it still in the process of going through getting approval?
I think it's still in the process, but I've got to double check that. Well, when I was in Canberra, it was a little bit hectic. Yeah.
So let's say they do approve the Royal Commission. Yeah. What do you hope, as someone who's been campaigning for this for such a long time, what's your hopes that will come out of this?
I just want to solve the problem, guys. I do. I really do. I just want to see us listening to our veterans, not throwing them under the bus, and seeing what we can do to really help them. I mean, and we know it can be done. In the USA, they had a similar problem with Veteran Affairs. The approval rating was in the dumpsters for Veteran Affairs once Trump took over, and then after Trump finished, it was at a record high.
From the guys I speak to who are veterans, the Department of Veterans Affairs itself is a serious issue with their way that they deal with inquiries from veterans who need assistance. It's a leading cause of actually leading towards their suicide, is dealing with that department. Yeah.
Alright, so what I think we'll do now, we'll go jump over to a message, and then I do need to play another song to keep up with the community guidelines. So I do apologise because most of Joel's streams and his videos that he puts on, it's just like 2 hours straight talking about these issues, bang, 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 one after the other. It's fantastic. So it is a bit of a different platform. I hope you're having fun with it. So we are on Carter's Corner on 89.7 FM. You can listen online at carterscorner.com.au. 89.7fm.com.au. You can watch our Carter's Corner on YouTube or Facebook, and we also stream to a whole heap of other sites. You've also got Charles Smith in the studio, the Honourable Charles Smith from the West Australia Party. So we're going to go to a quick message and a song, and we'll be back shortly. All right, Carter's Corner back again, and just to annoy Dwayne, fantastic. Okay, so we've got Travis Carter, 89.7. We've got Joel Jamal from his studios over in New South Wales, Australia. We've got Charles Smith across the road from me over in Perth, Australia. And we've got all the lovely listeners live on the YouTube, Facebook, everything else, and possibly maybe a Twitch stream later on as well. So I found out a couple of my listeners are hardcore gamers that have invited me to play online with them and stream it and have
that's nice, isn't it?
shits and giggles, and it'll just be funny. So
Awesome.
might be a plan for the future, but we'll see. So one of the things we've been discussing just recently, and I think you said it was a $1.2 trillion debt is coming our way.
Yeah, 1.3.
1.3.
Real exciting. Really exciting.
So I'm really not looking forward to leaving that to my kids, because I can't ever imagine that getting paid off in my lifetime. One of the things, talking about leaving debt to kids, and just debt in general, so a few things are happening this week. So the JobKeeper and Job Starter, I think it is. Seeker and JobKeeper is starting to get wound up. Oh, come on, Dwayne, turn your volume off. So Dwayne's just sitting on the floor, like pulling up some information for me. So also the other one that's really come up, I don't know if New South Wales has this or not. So in WA, if you have a small and possibly medium, I'll have to double check this one, but definitely a small business is renting a property off you, or as a private rental, for your home.
Residential tenancy.
Residential tenancy, thank you, Charlie. If you are behind on your payments during the COVID emergency, the government changed the legislation to say that you are not allowed to evict this person from the home. That's due to run out very, very shortly. So, the question that I want to throw to Joel and Charles, what is going to happen to all these people who, for whatever reason, haven't paid their rent for the last 12 months?
Well, from experience, I would think if people have failed to pay the landlord, they're in serious danger of being evicted or going through the eviction process within the court system here. So that, coupled with, we're led to believe, a big rental shortage anyway in Perth, where hundreds of people are alleged to be applying to rent a home, it seems to be that's going to create a little perfect storm of a rental crisis here in Western Australia. Probably McGowan's first challenge. See if he can keep us safe and strong.
So, Joel, how's the rental side of things in the property market over your neck of the woods? Has the New South Wales government done the same sort of thing?
I'm actually not sure. I need to look into that. But there's no doubt that if they pull the plug on that, as well in concert with the other payments, people are going to be struggling quite a bit. But this is the thing, though. New South Wales didn't suffer really, really bad. We're actually probably got off not so bad from this pandemic, economically speaking. We've been open most of the last year, really. We went into that first initial lockdown in April. But no, I think we're going to come out fairly strong out after this, and I think we'll see that within at least 12 months.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things I've noticed, so I'd love your feedback on this one. So 2007 we had the global financial crisis, and you can track that all the way back to the government was giving out interest-free loans. When those loans came up for maturity, people had to pay back a lot more money than what they could actually afford. So a lot of landlords and people who purchased houses during that time period gave them all back, and then that caused a lot of the banking financial sector to crash, and it just had a snowball effect. If we have people who are expecting, $300 a week rent, all of a sudden someone's going, no, I'm not paying. No, stuff you. So you look at that over a year, that's $15,000. I don't know many people who can just go, yeah, no worries, you can have $15,000 a year. A lot of these people who do own these houses will be mums, dads, retirees, and their investment properties are part of their retirement portfolio. if they're not getting this money and they can't get the money back because people turn around and go, no, we don't have to do it, we'll move out, we'll move to another house, we've just had 12 months free accommodation, what's going to happen? Because when all these houses, people start defaulting on their mortgages, the banks start calling in loans, all of a sudden the property market gets flooded with very, very cheap houses. Is this potentially going to cause another major financial crisis, even bigger than what we're currently seeing now?
Well, mate, difficult question to pose and answer. The establishment media is continuously spruiking property prices, saying prices are going up now, Perth, buy now while you still can. Prices are going up, It's the same rubbish they've been spruiking for years. That's how the West Australian, or indeed the whole Australian economy works, is through the housing industry. So what they do here in Australia is import people, build them a house and sell it to them, and hope that can continue forever. So when we have a dip in that policy, it causes an economic slowdown. The government here in WA has failed over decades really to build enough social housing to mop up that end of the market. So we're going to see a huge demand for housing, social housing, from people who are going to be evicted and cannot afford to pay the rents, which are no doubt going to be going up now since the moratorium or rent control has finished. So it's going to be the start of some social issues going forward for Western Australia. And as I just said, the first challenge for the McGowan government really is to deal with this big demand for social housing, which up to now they too have failed to address. They'd rather give money to private property developers to build a home for a family rather than build social housing for those in desperate need.
All right, Joel. Considering the similarities between what happened in the global financial crisis and now, with the potential for a lot of houses to go onto market at the same time in rapid succession, do you think that this could lead to Australia's own next crisis, especially in WA?
Possibly. I don't know about the WA market so much, but in Sydney there's no doubt there's an oversupply. We've had a ton of developments that have gone up here, and it's obviously more populous here. With almost, I think, what do we got, 5 million people in New South Wales? And Sydney is very dense, very, very dense. And the problem we've got over here is we've got a ton of international money here, particularly Chinese, especially in suburbs like Carlingford. And I'm giving you a specific suburb so people can't say Joel's being racist. If you go to Carlingford and you see the developments that are actually there, it's amazing. It's absolutely phenomenal how much is there and the oversupply that's there. And a lot of them are empty. They're empty, and they're still expensive. And it's like, why? This doesn't make any sense. The supply and demand predicts that it should be lower, but it's not. That's not the situation we're seeing.
Because the government can't afford to let property prices fail, because the property lobby funds government, basically. So government policy.
I think in Victoria, sorry to interrupt. I think in Victoria, I'll just add that a third of their budget funding actually comes from stamp duty. I think.
Exactly.
A third of the Victorian budget is purely stamp duty. That's insane.
Something like it's something like that.
It's that important to the Australian economy to keep houses turning over.
Wow. Okay, I had no idea it was that high. I knew it would be higher, just not a third. Especially considering how big Victoria is. So okay, let's look at a couple of different scenarios then. So let's say Martin McGowan comes up, and he turns around and goes, well, that's not like cripple the WA economy, even with our mining boom that's going on at the moment, and not all prices being like massively high. If he extends this, what do you think is going to happen to the everyday people who already $15,000 on a $300 a week house? They're already $15,000 in the hole. They can't evict someone. So what's going to happen from that point of view? Do you think he will extend out the mandatorium on preventing evictions?
This new guy, this new housing minister, Jim Carey, I think his name is, from the Labor Party.
Gee, amazing that. I don't think Liberals have enough seats to actually make a shadow opposition.
You're missing my deliberate joke with Jim Carey. Anyway, his
name's
John Carey.
I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. It's his name.
He's come out and just said, hey, landlords, please be nice to your renters, right? So that's the scope of ability from this guy as the housing minister. That's what they've come out and said. Be nice.
Okay, here's another question then. In the Emergency Management Act and also the Health Act, there's a line that goes something along the lines of anyone who suffers loss or damages because of a state emergency is entitled to fair and reasonable compensation. I think it's Section 78 on the State Emergency Management Act. The question is, let's say you're a landlord, you haven't received your rent for 12 months.
Does it qualify?
Does it qualify? So that's the question, because I've asked the government multiple times to come out and say, is that going to be an acceptable form of compensation? And not one of them has replied to me.
Which ministers have you approached?
I've asked
So
Fran Logan.
The former emergency minister, Logan.
Fran Logan.
Yeah. He's now retired and gone.
Probably busy, didn't want to deal with that one. So I did manage to speak to some of his staff, and they said they had no idea it was actually in the legislation.
There you go.
It's it'll be really interesting to see what happens. So I'd love the government just to turn around and say, you know what? Yes, there is a compensation clause.
I would get in touch with a competent lawyer within Parliament. Someone like Nick Goran might have an answer for you. He's the most competent lawyer that I came across in Parliament.
What was his name? Nick
Goran. Yeah.
Isn't he the Liberal dude?
Yeah, but he'll know.
Okay. Maybe I'll reach out to him. Oh, Nick, if you're listening, reach out to us.
Or you can try John Quigley,
No,
the Attorney General.
he won't come in. We should get him on there.
Well, he might know the answer if you send him a letter.
I think, Dwayne, should we? Quickly send him a message, invite him on the show?
Absolutely.
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 So in case, for the people who can't see, our producer got lonely waiting outside, so he's actually sitting in the studio on the floor, like running through his laptop, checking all the social medias and all that sort of stuff. It's kind of funny, actually.
Saying a quick prayer.
Oh.
Behave, used to. Gosh, shocking. All right, so we are coming up for time. So I've actually had a lot of fun. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw it over to Joel. Joel, is there anything that you're working on at the moment that you're allowed to tell us about? Hang on, I think he's frozen. Oh, my internet's dropped. Oh, that sucks. Internet's just gone, Dwayne. So
Keep talking.
That could be a timely end to the show, couldn't it?
I think it's a brilliant end to the show. So I'm going to throw the same question over to Charlie.
I'm working on leaving Parliament.
Working on leaving Parliament, awesome.
Yes.
So you're not done running federal at this stage?
So I need a new job.
Do you want to run federal?
Of course, I'd like to stay in politics. I think we desperately need some sort of populist, anti-establishment voice to be heard in our parliaments all over the place. You know, rather than this staid, boring party line which achieves nothing. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Leaving Parliament, but staying interested.
Staying interested, eh? So I'll just pull this down because it doesn't look very good. There we go, Cutter's Corner. That's my new logo. So
I reckon that could be a way to do that, Charlie.
You reckon?
On the internet.
I'm thinking maybe we should form a group ourselves because no one else is going to do it.
Because there's no opposition in Parliament. So we, the people, need to be the opposition to this McGowan government.
And we're kind of in like all opposition at the moment is kind of in exile. So maybe an opposition in exile.
Maybe. What a suggestion.
I think it's a wonderful suggestion. So watch this space. In case you can't tell, we have been toying and playing with some few things. So we'll see. So next week, how you feel about coming back?
Well, I think the Honourable Aaron Stonehouse is in the area, so perhaps you could twist his arm and get him to come back in.
So for the listeners who don't remember who Aaron Stonehouse is, I think his quote was, politicians are either, what was it, dirty perverts.
Paedophiles or Satanists.
And Satanists. So he was extremely funny to have on the show. So always welcome to have him back. So this has been Carter's Corner. We'll wrap it up there. We're like 2 minutes early, but it's all good. So we did have Joel Jamal on the line before our internet dropped. I'm actually really impressed that internet lasted that length with only 2 dropouts. We've got the Honourable Charles Smith across the road from us there. And we got... Drop the mic. Travis Carter, Carter's Corner, 89.7 FM. We will be back hopefully still next Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. So, guys, I'm going to jump over to the last lot of messages, and that's us for the show. So I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday, wonderful week. Stay happy, stay strong, and make sure you give the Facebook and the social medias a like and a subscribe because it really does help. Now, one final piece of news. We do have a new Patreon account. So if you want exclusive information and all that sort of stuff, this show, even though we're volunteers, it does actually cost us quite a bit of money to get the show up and onto the air, data, equipment, maintenance, stuff like that. So if you do want exclusive information and direct access to not only myself but also the producer as well, please make sure you head on over to patreon.com, I think it is, and just Google, look up Carter's Corner. The link will be in the description later today. So awesome. We're done go those messages, and we are done for today.
Say good night from him.
Good night, ladies and
Good
gentlemen.
night from me.
Say good night, Dwayne.
Good night, Dwayne.
Good night, Dwayne.